Influencers are everywhere, but today we are going to talk about one influencer in particular, a Mr. Simon Squibb, and our experience with him, because he pretends to spend a lot of his time helping people, and we want to share our story and whether he actually helped us or whether we were tossed aside.
So, the man, the myth, the legend, how did it all start? Where were we? And what do you reckon?
Obviously, let's give a bit of context to the situation as to what actually happened. We were at an Action Coach event, which was a big business coaching event, something that we're a part of, and it's something that we obviously feel is really important for any entrepreneur to have a coach and mentor. Action Coach is a great company that we've used for years to help to scale our business exponentially. And they put a big exhibition on for business owners, and BizX, one of the biggest, and it attracted some really good speakers that year, didn't it? There was Gary Vee, Daniel Priestley, Simon Squibb was obviously one of them.
Jessica Ennis.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really great Brad Sugars, some really, really good speakers. And we took a lot in from that weekend, ton of value, ton of new ideas that we can implement into the business. And it was literally the final day. I think about 3:00 the show had finished, and we tried to get a bit ahead of time, a bit ahead of the traffic. It was a final Q&A, and it was time to go. I think we'd done enough and seen enough that it was time to leave and get ahead of the traffic. So took the car, left, but I'd left my bag inside, so I parked about outside of the front and went inside to go and grab my bag. And the next thing I know, I've gone and got my stuff, come back out, and I can just see Simon Squibb with his camera walking over to you. And I've seen his videos. I know what's coming. There's going to be a big old "What's your dream?" And you looked, to be fair to you, cool as can be, sat on the bonnet of my car. Hope you didn't dent it. With your sunglasses on, just looking at your phone, just minding your own business. And I could just see him on his way to ambush you with the "What's your dream?" question. So it's over to you from what happened from there, really.
It was exactly as you said. I was just sitting on the bonnet, kind of just waiting for you. And you'd, like you say, you'd forgot your bag. So it was kind of like, and I was going to ask you, can I get your keys just to sit in the car? Because I didn't really want to just stand around. So again, all these little things like the butterfly effect, isn't it? That's ended up happening because of these tiny little things that have, the situation that ended up occurring. So yeah, like you say, I was on my phone, just minding my own business. And then, like you say, Simon Squibb's come over and gone, "Excuse me, what's your dream?" And I'm like looking up going, what? Like, Jesus Christ. Bearing in mind as well, remember, because this guy was a speaker on stage saying he's been paid 50 odd grand as well. So you're like, bloody Jesus, one of the flipping speakers as well. And obviously I'd seen his videos. And it was a bit of a hesitant, I don't really know, to be honest. And then that's when you kind of came over. And one of our dreams, again, with it being our business, we've got our dad working for us. And for me, it's always been that we don't want to push him out of the business, but for him to be able to retire would be a massive bonus, that he doesn't have to be in the business. So that was the first response. And then I got a bit, he was going, "Yeah, I know, but how can I help you do that?" And it was all a bit, I don't really know.
You're missing a massive, that's not what happened. Your memory's obviously a little hazy, because I joined
Apparently.
the conversation at this point. He came over, was "What's your dream?" And your first response was obviously, after a bit of thought, was to say, "We want to help our dad retire." And straight away he was like, "That's bullshit. That's ridiculous." He goes, "Retirement's an absolute lie. People need purpose." So we obviously thought, oh, bloody hell, okay, you were obviously a bit shocked by that. But, I can see his point.
It was quite admirable.
I can definitely, yeah, exactly. But I can definitely see his point, with that whole retirement is bullshit, because I certainly think that I'll never retire. I think once you start to retire from a purpose in life, I think it's on a steady decline downhill. So I do agree with him. But I also think, who are you to say that what I've just told you is my dream, and you'll go, "That's bullshit"? Says who? You. Sorry, Mr. Squibb, but I'm not being funny, but like you've just come over asking a question. If you've said that's your dream, who's he to say that's wrong?
Well, this is it. So then, obviously, I had to take a bit of a back step and thinking, Jesus, right? Well, I need to rethink my life plan. And then I was kind of like, and then that's when, like you say, you were there at that point. And I was like, well, this is my brother, funnily enough. We work together. So he might have an idea of what to say.
He might have a dream that you'll find acceptable.
That he might help instead, because mine's obviously terrible.
Yeah. So he asked me, mine was obviously a bit different. He was like, what's your dream? How can I help?
You squandered it big time as well.
Not really. Again, this is just me as a person. He asked me, how can I help you achieve your dream? And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, to be honest with you, Simon, I'm an entrepreneur by right. I've managed to forge my own path in life with a lot of help from the people closest to me. Said I'm not really interested. I'm really grateful. I think you'd be better served by helping people that need it more than me. So I'm really grateful, but I really like to form my own path. And he's off again. That's wrong. Everybody needs help. That's bullshit. With his same rhetoric of this whole everything that comes out of our mouths is nonsense, apparently. So
then I piped up again, having an epiphany, and thought, oh, actually, we have a podcast, funnily enough, that we film. So then I'd said to him, actually, we like to help people, and this is the vehicle that we use to do that. So it was about saying, look, well, I know you like to help people's dreams come true, even if you don't agree with them. And maybe you can help us to do the same for some people that we've done it for, and to broaden our horizons and increase our audience. And could you come on our podcast? And again, amazingly, he kind of went, I'll do it. I'll come on. Can you come down to London? We were like, yeah, we'll go anywhere. Probably don't want to come to Birmingham. And he said he'd get in touch. So, we were kind of away with the fairies at that point, absolutely just flying off the handle, thinking great times.
Well, we were obviously buzzing because it's a big influencer or somebody with a really big audience who, I do respect him, absolutely. And nothing that I'm going to say today takes away from the respect that I have for what he's achieved in business, what he's achieved with helping people that he has definitely helped. To take nothing away from him in that sense. He's 100% helped a lot of people, and there is a respect there. But from that point, the one thing that I've always been taught and that I'm really big on is if you give someone your word and you say to somebody that you are going to do something, as a man, you follow through. If there is a reason why you can't, then you have to be able to at least relay that point, because empty promises, to me, really devalue who you are as a person. Because if you go around saying to everyone, I promise that I'll do this, and being the guy that says, oh, I'll get this done and I'm all talk and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'll help you with this, and then you don't follow through on any of it, you devalue your word. And I think as a man and as a woman, but I think as a man, your word is so important in life, as well as because it goes alongside your reputation and your name. And I think genuinely in life, your name is the most valuable thing that you own. It's not about money. It's not about assets. It's not about the car you drive. I think your name and who you are is the most valuable thing you own. So for me, when people say my name, I want them to be associated with someone that stands up on their business, that does what they say they'll do, and is a good person and gives back. Which, by all accounts, I agree that I do think Simon is that person. I think he obviously helps a lot of people. But he made a promise and gave us his word after taking our details that in 4 weeks' time, we'd hear from his team, because obviously he's not going to do all this himself. He's got a big team. I respect that he would have his team reach out to us and we would get some feedback as to when we can get it sorted, when we get it booked in. And obviously we would do all the donkey work. All we'd need him to do is just turn up and sit down for the interview and sit down for a podcast episode. And time went by.
So slowly.
Day by day, week by week, month by month, and no reply, no nothing. So obviously you took the initiative to send him a message, didn't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. I kind of sent a really nice message kind of saying, hi, Simon, we came and saw you at BizX, the event. We haven't heard from you yet, but it'd be lovely to kind of get you on the podcast and I'm sure I'm going to hear from you soon, with kind of like shifty eyes to the side, kind of in like a nice, but one of them kind of prompts. And obviously you didn't get a reply.
Well, at that point, obviously, both of us were doing it. So I messaged him as well. And crickets, absolute crickets. And I get he's got loads of followers and 3 million followers and all of that. So I think by week 7 or 8, I think we'd kind of just said,
well, you definitely had.
I was like, this isn't going to happen. So just at the same time, I happened to be on YouTube and spotted a video by one Samuel Leeds, who, big property investor, does a lot of training courses for people to get into property. I know there's a bit of an ongoing feud between him and Rob Moore, which I always find highly entertaining. Not declaring who's better or worse, but there is just that funny feud between the two. And that's how I came to know Samuel Leeds. I watched a few of his videos. And his newest video was titled Simon Squibb, Is He a Hypocrite? ? I had to click it.
Did you really?
And straight away, watching the video, and he's doing a review of his new book, What's Your Dream? And I've read the book. And as I was watching this video with Sam doing a review of his book, I couldn't help agree with pretty much every single point he made about the book, which I'm not going to repeat it. If you want to go and watch the video, it's on Samuel Leeds' channel. He does a deep dive into the book, what his thoughts and feelings are about it. I think Simon's book is definitely, it's somewhat influential and inspirational in the sense he tells his story and how you could potentially replicate what he did. But then I think he tries to shut off a few of the other avenues that a lot of people go down. And he creates this utopia of how success is achieved through this follow your dream, do what you love. And that's just not realistic. It's kind of very fluffy. And I obviously enjoyed the video at that point. I thought it was a good video. So I commented at the bottom with the name of the title being, Is He a Hypocrite? And I just basically gave a
synopsis.
Gave him an account for what happened for us with our situation that was ongoing. And he replied saying, so do you think he is a hypocrite? And my genuine thought, which I still hold to this day, is that he's obviously grown so big now of helping people achieve their dreams that it's allowed him to be more selective on, number one, who he helps, because again, it will help his audience a little bit more. I'm sure he also helps loads of people in the background as well, which I know he does, and he said to us that he does, which is great. And obviously I'd take nothing away from him. But I did say in the comment that he definitely does help people, 100%. My only gripe is that if you've made your word to someone, or if you've given your word to someone, or you've said you're going to help them achieve their dream, follow through with it. But then if you can't, at least have the common courtesy to say, we're ever so sorry, we're not going to be able to do much with you on this one. And that's all it was. Well.
A firestorm raged down upon us.
The fire started.
Well, that's not actually how we thought it happened first, because how from there, I don't know how long after the comments that we got the message, but you text me in the morning at like, say, 7:30, because we've been excited about this for ages, just couldn't wait for it to happen. We're thinking, oh my God, and then we just kind of lost hope. And then next thing you know, I've had a message from you in the morning from our business channel going, Simon Squibb has sent a voice note. And obviously I've still got the screenshot now. And I was like, and you were going, oh my God, it's happening. I was like, no way, it's actually happening as well. And I was buzzing for it. And I thought, no way. But then you read or listened to the voice note and then reply. I was like, yeah, what's going on? What's going on with the voice note? And you were like, yeah, it's not what we think. I have some explaining to do, because I didn't even know these comments were even been made. So I was like, what have you done? What have you done, Tyler? And you can take over from here.
Yeah, I do have a tendency to put my foot in it. So again, I'll hold my hand up to that. That does happen from time to time. And obviously, I had got to the point where I was at my wit's end. I was like, we're never going to hear from Simon or his team, because we even know people that know some of the people in his team, and they'd reached out. We'd reached out on several channels, yours, mine, a few others, to actually speak to him and just say, are you going to fulfill your promise?
Do what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Are you going to fulfill your promise or not? And we didn't hear it. It was, again, crickets. So we just said, right, I saw this video and I thought, we'll just drop a comment. And I did genuinely think, because of Samuel Leeds' channel, how big it is, and obviously the title of the video, I did think, almost like a lamb to slaughter, that Mr. Squibb would come swarm into the video and sort of create some form of opinion on it or backlash and review the comments. And so, obviously, I was correct. He
should have put a bet on it.
Yeah, I should have. But anyway, I'd opened the voicemail, but then at the same time, that, let's say, comment and video was made on, just for argument's sake, a Monday. And then I sent Simon a comment on a Wednesday saying, hi, Simon, still hoping to hear back from you. Is there any update? Again, continually chasing him. So it wasn't like we just sent him one message. We followed it up.
Yeah.
On my personal page. And then the next morning, obviously we had the voice note. So I was as excited as you was, because I thought he'd have seen my message that I'd sent literally the day before on my Instagram page, where I'd said, Simon, can you chase up? Just a polite chase. Are you going to fulfill your promise? And then I obviously played the message. Very different. And yeah, to give a brief sort of...
Do the accent if you want.
Nah. It pretty much said that he had seen my comment on Samuel Leeds, that he thought that I was engaging in online bullying, that I was a hater, that I was trying to damage his brand, that I was lying on social media, and that it was the wrong way of approaching things. He said he didn't remember us. He didn't remember making a promise to us. He didn't remember any of that. He just said that if it was true, that we should have done our jobs and we should have reached out to him on his pages and reached out to him on all platforms and put some effort in, because somebody of his caliber with so many followers, it's not for him to chase us when he's the one that's made a promise. It's us that should be chasing him. So obviously I've got finished reading the voice note. My first thought was, Cody, send me all the screenshots of us chasing him. And he goes, and I was like, oh, Mr. Simon, here's all the evidence that you've just said we didn't have. So we have chased you up consistently. We have been trying to get in touch through this channel, and this channel. You've not bothered coming back to us. And the only reason you've come back to us is because your legal team have apparently seen a video from Samuel Leeds, and that you're trying to then get them involved to have him take it down. And that's the only way you've seen our comment, which you said yourself was how he'd seen it. So I don't know what your reaction was when I told you that actually it wasn't going to be what you thought it was.
Well, initially I was fuming. I was like, you're an idiot. What the fuck have you done that for? Excuse my French. But like, what have you done that for? And then when I kind of started thinking about it, I was like, well, we hadn't actually heard anything back from him anyway. I was like, well, I suppose he was not going to get in touch with us anyway. So unless you sent that message, we probably still wouldn't have heard from him. 100%. So when I kind of calmed down a bit, I kind of understood and was a bit like, yeah, okay, actually, yeah, in all fairness, like, what the hell? And then I know that you continued speaking with him, and he'd said about going to London or something like that.
Yeah, so I was trying to form a bit of a redemption arc because at this point, you know, I would have still liked to have had the conversation with him, because he's obviously a guy with a ton of business knowledge, a ton of experience, a ton of wisdom, certainly in marketing. He's brilliant. You're second to none, really. He's really good at what he does. And he would have been able to give our audience a ton of insights and a ton of helpful information. So just for everybody watching, I was really hoping to bring him on so we could extract some of that information and then obviously give it back to our audience. So for me, it was really important to try and reverse this.
Build the bridge back
and
up.
Get him back on and sort of save face a little bit. So from there, obviously, we had a back and forth, and I said, look, Simon, I completely appreciate where you're coming from. I hope you read the full comment. I wasn't there hating in a sense of saying that you're a liar or accusing you of anything. I just simply gave an account of what had happened to us. And at the bottom, I'd even given you the grace of saying that you actually definitely are helping people, that you now you're a product of your own success. You've run out, you've got less time than ever because you've got now, when you first start, you've probably only got one person that puts their hand up and says, can you help me fulfill my dream? Now you've probably got one person a minute saying, I want you to help me with my dream. So it's very tough. So I completely got all that. He started to come round. He started to see all of that. But I think he'd already got it in his head. He was trying to give us a lesson. Really, he was like, that's not how you do business. Because the way you've talked online, it's very damaging. It's very hateful. And you're engaging in it, you're damaging my brand. And I just think engaging in online bullying is just not how you get anybody to do what you want them to do. He said that he did, in all fairness, say that there was a miscommunication from his team. There must have been an error somewhere in the actual setting up of him or his team reaching out to come on. So I took that at face value and said, that's absolutely fine. And managed to get it to a point where he said, I think we've probably started off on the wrong foot. Should we have a face-to-face in London or today at a coffee shop? Now, London at the time, it's usually about an hour and a half on the train, but there was a problem. Must have been on strike or something, shock horror. And the journey down there was 3 hours in the car. So I sent him a screenshot and said, look, I can't get there until 12:15, which was 15 minutes late as to what he'd said. And he said, look, don't spend 3 hours or 6 hours on a round trip just to come and have a 20-minute conversation with me. Do you want to do it another time? And then he said, do you want to do a Zoom? So we said, 100%, let's get it scheduled in. And it just got worse from there, to be honest.
Well, this is it. We kind of thought, oh, brilliant. Like, we can build a bit of a bridge and maybe out the other end of it, there could be at least some sort of relationship formed. We thought we'd be able to get on the call and then, form some sort of relationship with him. But, he kind of absolutely drilled us like for just about half an hour and just kind of going, I can't even remember everything that he was saying. He was like, but yeah, like you say, he was spreading venom, like you don't go about things this way. But I mean, when you boil it all the way down to its core, he came over to us, as this what our dream was, said he'd get back to us in like 4 weeks. It was like 8 odd weeks and we hadn't heard anything. We'd chased, not heard anything, and then got frustrated, made a comment, still not completely knocking him off his pillar. We're still saying, yeah, he does do what he said he was doing, but, he's just not being more selective, and he's kind of got his flipping, put his head in a wasp's nest or something because he's like flying around like a headless chicken.
Yeah, there was obviously, we touched a nerve, and I completely can understand where it comes from. Maybe. Well, we obviously touched a nerve, and I can understand when you've got such a big following across so many different channels that you are going to have so many people giving you shit every single day and having problems. Because even when he was on the Zoom, he was standing around in London getting ready to film some content. And even in that 30-minute window, he must have had about maybe 5 to 10 people come up to him and say, can I have a photo, or wave and say hello? So, I can imagine it does get a lot, and I can completely appreciate when you've hit a level of fame or a level of notoriety that there is a burden that comes with it. So I can completely understand and empathize with that, because it must be tough, especially then when you've got on the other side of it people that are supporting and saying hello and thinking that he's great. You've then got the other people, probably like the Sam Leeds and the other business owners and other people that are using his name for content, ironically. And also that are then giving him a bad time or a hard time for him potentially, in fact, not potentially, genuinely wanting to help people and give back. Now, he is in a very big position of privilege at this point. He says he sold his company for a large sum of money that's undisclosed, but it's got to be a good amount. So that means that he doesn't necessarily have to work anymore. He's earned that right, which is great for him. But he's now landed himself in this position of he can spend all his time helping people fulfill and achieve their dream. But he's not doing it for free. Now, obviously, everybody's most important asset is their time. So he is now spending a lot of his time helping people. Take, honestly, nothing away from him. But with all of this newfound fame that he's got and this newfound notoriety that he's got, he's obviously now being a lot more selective on who he actually helps and what makes good content. And he's got a team behind him, and he's got a team of media and marketing. So it might have been that the video that he did with us just might have not been good enough. He might have just thought, well, first of all, he said he wanted to retire his dad. That's crap content. And then the other one said he didn't want any help. So, right, whatever. And then they finally got to this point of coming on a podcast because we genuinely want to help other people start up in business and find success in their lives. So it was like, oh, I can use that. I like that. That works for me and my brand. I'll help you then. Do you know what I mean? So he's very selective now on who he helps and how he helps them. And I just think my thing really was, from our perspective, we were minding our own business, doing literally nothing to do with him. We weren't pestering him for anything. We didn't ask him for anything. He came over to us saying, how can I help? What's your dream? We even said, actually, mate, we'd rather do it on our own. He then pressed us and said, bullshit. We want to help.
Yeah,
we want to help you. How can I help? No one does it on their own. Everyone needs help. So I'm like, all right, well, if you're desperate to help us, come on our podcast then. And then didn't hear anything from him. Chased him up multiple times, didn't hear back, and now we're on the other end of a Zoom call getting a grilling from a guy who's calling us haters and saying that we're,
and he's not on top of a mountain,
saying that we're the worst people ever because we didn't chase him enough at the fact that he promised us he'd come on our podcast when we said we didn't want anything from him, but it was our fault because we didn't chase him. I'm just a bit like, What are you talking about, mate? Like, what are you actually talking about? And we're there literally getting shouted at and told off like some schoolboys getting, in trouble with the teacher in detention for not doing our homework. And I'm like, mate, you're the one that's not done your homework. You were the one that made the promise, and you're the one that's now reneging on that promise because of apparently we've been hateful to you online.
Well, we were really, because we were excited anyway, but we were really excited because remember after he'd walked away, we were speaking to his assistant, and his assistant was saying that was like one of the best ones we've filmed for like ages. And so it was even more reinforcement to be like, bloody hell, like, actually, yeah, this is like, he said he was going to do it, and his assistant's going, it's really good. We're killing it. Like, there's no way that's not happening. So again, it was like on the way home, calling parents, calling girlfriends, calling this, and it's like, getting all excited to then have your balloon popped. And it's like,
good way to put it. Yeah, it was deflating. It was, because obviously, we do want to get some good guests on now. I think it's a good time to start talking. We are getting some guests lined up, probably not as illustrious as the great Simon Squibb anymore. So sorry to burst anybody's bubble, but no Simon Squibb. He was quite clear that he goes, I'm not coming on your podcast.
Yeah, he goes, just to clarify, I'm not coming on your podcast. So, all right, mate, calm down.
Yeah, he goes, I get to choose whose podcast I go on. And after everything that's happened, he goes, you're not somebody that I want to associate with. And so we were obviously, very upset and hurt. It took me about 5 days to have a clear sleep through night because of how much I was tossing and turning over the thought of Simon not coming on the pod. But it is what it is. So
well, if he was annoyed then, he's going to be really annoyed. He's going to be really annoyed now.
He might send his legal team.
Yeah, at least we're not doing a podcast about it.
Well, this is his revenge. This is our revenge. He said he weren't going to come on, so he's here in spirit. Simon, you're right, mate. But look, at the end of the day, we are going to get some good guests on. But I think it's one that we just wanted to give an account, because I think for me, what I'm trying to summarize is, because there's some really important lessons for everybody here, which is, man or woman, if you give somebody your word, if you're going to tell somebody that you are going to do something, do it. Just fucking do it. Because I get really upset and pissed off with people more so than Simon for a comment online. I get really, this is a valid reason to get pissed off with people. If you make a promise to someone, you give them your word and you don't do it, you are just a shit person. And I think not only, do you know what? The other thing as well is that I think that the person you're letting down the most is yourself. Genuinely, I do, because I feel like you know yourself in your heart as a person that if you are going to say you are going to commit to doing something and you haven't got the ability to follow through on your own words, I just think that, to be honest, then you are a loser. Because not a loser in the sense that everybody else perceives you as a loser. You know yourself, you're a loser. And one of the best people that I've ever seen on this, and I take a lot from it and I relate to it, is Chris Eubank Jr. He did a great podcast with not Simon Squibb. He's in the head now. Did a great podcast with Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. Now there's a podcast. Go and watch that, not Simon. Anyway, he did a great pod with Stephen Bartlett, and he said to himself, it was the first one he did. He's done 2 now. Both were brilliant. And he said sometimes he's training on his own, whether it's on the treadmill, whether it's in the ring, shadow boxing, sparring, hitting the bag, whatever it is. He, at so many points, would love to quit. He's running on that treadmill and he's told himself, I'm going to go for a 10-mile run on the treadmill. Gets to mile 6 and thinks, I'm out of it. My leg hurts. I'm tired. I'm sweating. The aircon's broke. It's especially hot. You know what? I'll just do 6. And he stops himself and he says, I have made a promise to myself. I have said I am going to follow through. This is the target I've set myself. I'm going to do it. Because if I'd back down now, if I can't even hold a promise that I've made to myself, and I know I'm the type to quit, the type to give up, and the type to actually not follow through, by the time it comes to being in the ring and being in the arena, when I actually need to draw on that energy and I need, my back's up against the ropes, and he's just had a great scrap for Conor with him and Conor Ben. And I was there live. It was mad. It was electric.
The Titans.
One of the best fights I've ever seen. And it was brilliant. I was so lucky to be there live and had great seats as well.
Didn't they throw more punches in that fight than they did for like 3 of the other main fights?
Absolutely.
In the weekend or something?
Yeah, so it was a war. It was an absolute war. And by round 12, Eubank, in the last 2 rounds, Eubank really stepped up and started pushing the pace and really beating on Conor Ben. And if he hadn't have done that, the fight could have very easily gone the other way. And the point that I'm getting is if Chris Eubank was the type to break his own word, cut himself short, make a promise to himself and say, I'm going to do 10 miles and then give up and retreat at 6, he's going to be in that ring in the championship rounds, 11 and 12, 10, 11, 12. And he's going to go, tired. I'm in pain. I'm getting punched by this little... the Destroyer. His name is that's his alias, the Destroyer, and God knows he is. He's an absolute bomber. He's got iron fists. He's a great fighter, one of my favourites. And he could have very easily have just gone, do you know what? I've had enough of this. See you later, and just covered up and took the L. But he didn't, because he knows what he's capable of, and he's pushed himself. He's followed through on his word. He says what he's going to do, and then he actually follows through and does it. And it's so important in life. It's the biggest lesson for anybody, because you're not cheating everybody else. You're cheating yourself. And if you become a person that doesn't follow through on your word, then your word is valueless. It's useless. And genuinely, I'd rather be a person that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I couldn't even add much more to it. And, shots fired, Simon. Follow through.
100%.
Or at least tell them that you're not going to follow through.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is as well, just to end on, is if you have got, and I realise, look, I've tried to cover, or we have tried to say, a real open, fair review of the situation, what happened. We're not here to hate. This isn't a hate video. It's all just centered around, if you're going to say something and you're going to promise somebody to do something, do it. And it deserves more people to call you out. And he can't be upset that we're calling him out for not doing what he promised he'd do. Now he's in, at the same time, in his defense, he 100% has every right to go, do you know what, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to do that. 100%. That's absolutely fair. So I take nothing away from him. We're all individual. We're all sovereign beings. If he changes his mind and he doesn't want to do something, he's well within his right to do that. And I couldn't stand by his decision anymore. But I also stand by what I believe in, which is if you're going to say something, you get to do it. So this isn't hate. I'm not here saying that he's not helping people. I'm not here saying he's not successful. I'm not here saying he's not great at what he does. All I'm simply saying is he gave us his word that he's going to do something and he didn't do it. And then he was the one giving us shit for him not following through, which I think is wrong.
Like I said, I respect the guy as well. I make a few jokey comments here and there, but we're really excited. It didn't happen. I kind of understand, a little bit why, but like you said, just, if you've said you were going to do something, just do it, or at the least just let us know when we've been chasing.
100%. And it's a tough landscape to navigate your way around in. This whole online influencer space, content creator space, podcasting space, is a tough way, and it's a constant learning process. No one's perfected it, but the people that have learned the quickest and that are the best, your Rogans, your Chris Williamsons, your Jordan Petersons that have big platforms, they've not just done it overnight, they've spent years and years and years and years doing it, same as Simon. So look, it's all a learning curve. It's one for us. We have no bitterness or hate towards him or anyone. Just think that on that occasion, it's not quite happened or panned out the way we thought it would, but it makes for interesting stories. So
there you go. What more can we ask for?
Absolutely. So look, again, end of the day, if you say you're going to do something, please, please, please follow through. Not just for the person that you've made the promise to, do it for yourself, because trust me, no one's going to know better than yourself that you're letting people down and that you're letting yourself down. And there is nothing worse than damaging your own reputation by not following through on your word. So thank you very much for watching. Remember, drop a like, subscribe, stick a comment in the box if you disagree with anything we've said, because I think this is a great way to talk about potential other sides and other ways of looking at this situation. But Simon, if you're watching, drop a comment, mate, or reach out to us on Instagram. I'm sure we'll hear from your legal team. In the meantime, thanks for watching.